this program. And, even Jim Lakatsky, who ran the program, who's a retired DIA officer, PhD in engineering, even made this disclosure in his book. Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, page 152 to 153. And he also made a disclosure a couple weeks ago, I think it was on Weaponized podcast with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, where he's like, yeah, we had a whole craft and we broke into the hall and we gained access. And he ran that through the same, security process as I did. And so Jim Lakatsky, who ran this program, is also going on the record that he is aware, personally aware of intact vehicles and everything. But
so they gained access.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? And by what method did they gain access?
The way he wrote it in his book, I can only infer it sounded forcible. So through some kind of, means, I don't know if it was like CO2 laser or something. I don't actually know how they gained access. But imagine it was not permissive access. They broke into the damn thing.
So this thing is essentially sealed, and it's some sort of what was the shape of this thing?
Lakatsky didn't disclose the shape on this particular vehicle.
It is,
as far as I
what about the dimensions?
I don't believe he did in his book. But I think it's like chapter 11 in his new book or something. I glanced at it. But he did make that disclosure on video as well. And I do encourage both the Aero Office, which is the DOD's UAP task force successor, and Congress to ask Dr. James Lakatsky to come in for classified testimony, because the disclosure in his one book that he wrote with Colin Kelleher, George Knapp, and in the second book, well, the guy saying he has close personal knowledge, he needs to go to Congress. So I don't know James Lakatsky, but I do encourage him to be a fact witness. But going back to that transfer with Lockheed, long story short, can't get into all the nuanced details, but basically the CIA said fuck you to DIA and Lockheed, and it was totally killed. So Harry Reid's request to get the material transferred to the OSAP program was totally killed because of bureaucracy and kind of fiefdom stuff. So they used that money, and then they wrote those defense intelligence reference documents, the DIRDs, as a lot of people who's familiar with it listening will know about. And then they did look at Skinwalker Ranch because they thought that studying kind of the more woo-woo phenomenon aspects of this, and I've never been to the ranch, so I've never experienced the ranch for myself, but obviously I think we both know a bunch of people that have been to the ranch and have seen some trippy stuff, or at least allege that. They thought that they would be able to gain currency with the program, and in this case CIA, to unlock the key for the Lockheed Martin stuff, which actually, I'll tell you right now, it's so weird to say that, but I ran that shit through security. To me, it's like an out-of-body experience to talk about that kind of detailed sensitivity, stuff like that. But basically, they studied the ranch to gain favor, to be like, hey, look at all this stuff we're figuring out, this paranormal stuff that's somehow connected to the phenomenon on the ranch. But ultimately, they never gained favor with the government customer. And then the program kind of died a slow death because of a lot of politics in the Pentagon. So that's kind of the long but short of it with the OSAP program, that, I wanted to make sure the public knew it's not what you think it was. There was some other stuff behind the scenes that, I wanted to speak truth to power on.
So this particular vehicle that they had recovered from the 1950s, what was the source of it? Where did they find it?
Those details, I did not get cleared. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So they have in possession this thing. They gain access to this thing. And what do they report once they've gained access to it?
Oh, those details I do not know. That's probably a question for Dr. Lakatsky. I presume he knows those details. I don't know.
So this thing is housed somewhere.
It is, yes.
Currently.
It may still be in the same location that I know about, yes.
And how many people have access to this, and how did they prevent this information from being released?
I mean, it goes back to the compartmentation and kind of the ecosystem of secrecy in this community, right? Only a limited amount of people, at least at the time, on Lockheed Martin's side. And Lockheed Martin was complaining basically like, look, like the secrecy's ridiculous. We can't even bring the right engineers. Like, imagine you're like a hot shot engineer. You might be hot too. I don't know. But that, you're fresh out of grad school. Maybe you're like the best PhD electrical engineer. You want to do cool shit. You want to publish an IEEE. You want to climb the ladder corporately, and that kind of thing. A Lockheed Martin executive comes to you. Yeah, dude, I can read you into something really crazy, but you're never going to publish papers on it. You're never going to be able to tell people what you worked on, and it's probably not the most career enhancing, but if you want to work on something cool, but I can't tell you because it's unacknowledged until you sign this piece of paper, non-disclosure agreement, sorry, but here's the raw deal. And, a lot of people are like, fuck you, no. And it's not like Lockheed Martin could broadcast this to universities like, come work for us.
Right.
You'll work on crazy shit. But that is very akin to a lot of other black programs in the government that are unacknowledged in nature. You don't know what you're signing up for until you get bred in. And I've been briefed to a lot of that kind of conventional stuff in my career.
So that's one of the problems that Bob Lazar, and I'd love to get your take on Bob Lazar. One of the things that he talked about was that science can't really operate in a vacuum.
Yeah.
When you separate the metallurgists from the propulsions experts, from the biological experts, and they're not allowed to communicate with each other, and they're not allowed to bring in other experts to have different.
Well, that was the frustration that I had some friends that I've known my entire career, like almost 14 years, right? I literally know them personally. I had a relationship with them, but they ended up, spilling the beans where, look, we're on the program. I'm an engineer for X, Y, and Z. We can't even cross talk across the cubicles, for God's sakes. I'm looking at material X, doing some X-ray diffraction testing on it, which is like shooting a stream of electrons and seeing how it bends and looking at the atomic arrangements. I can't even crosstalk that with another aspect of the program. This is ridiculous.